best of times. It was the worst of times. And all you have to do is look at your Facebook page to tell. This is the Politics Aside podcast. I'm Justin Groenert with my normal co-host. Jason Burton's actually on the line today because my normal co-host, Matt Neville, is under the table crying pitifully.
Why did this happen? Why?
And I feel like it may be a little too soon to be having this podcast because Matt is really salty right now. But we're going to plug ahead anyway and talk about election night 2016, which at a minimum can say was a historic night.
It was
all around.
Certainly historic. Whether good history or bad will be left to be seen.
That's true, but it is what it is. And now here we are. Donald J. Trump is the 45th president of the United States. Yes, Virginia, I just said it. And I still can't believe it came out of my mouth.
I don't even know what to say. Here we are.
So we talked a little bit about the polling. I mean, everybody saw this race going for Clinton. There was maybe half a path for Donald Trump to win going into election night. Every pundit, everything I read, everything I believed to this cycle, you were obviously quite confident that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president of the United States. And it wasn't, at least in terms of the Electoral College, it wasn't close.
No.
What happened, Matt?
I mean, if 538's where I tend to go for my political numbers, and even they had, I think it was a 28% chance of Trump to win. These media places that had it, 98, 99% for Hillary Clinton to win were just insane. I mean, there was always going to be a chance. I always figured it was going to be a nice low chance. But I mean, even looking and seeing the popular vote of what it's going to end up being, where Hillary is going to win by maybe 1.5%.
Well, it was like, 100,000, 200,000 votes right now?
Something like that.
Like in that, it's tight. I mean, it's at a 56, out of 112 million votes cast, 100,000 votes is not a lot of.
Well, I think California is still coming in.
Are they?
Last I saw,
Okay.
where I mean.
So she's going to get a bump there. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just very tight victories. I mean, you look at, Minnesota, Nevada, Trump won by 60,000 votes combined. I mean, it was just, he, whether that was the strategy or not, and from what, some reporters have reported from what the internal polls on that the Trump campaign had, even they had them losing.
Yeah.
It's
well, and it goes back to the point that I made earlier about how many of these non-traditional propensity voters are going to show up. And I think there was certainly some of that. I think there were a lot of folks in states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Florida, some of these states where normal bellwether states that they showed up. I also think Democrats just didn't vote. I mean, the numbers of Democrats that didn't show up based on earlier election cycles weren't there in some of these key states, not nationally, but in these key states, they just didn't show up.
Right.
I mean, this is at the hands of the Democratic Party. This is your fault, Neville. Your fault.
I will take the blame. You can send your hate mail to my Facebook page.
Actually, he's going to wash your car and wax it by himself while I watch and laugh at him while
that was not part of the deal for getting questions on the show.
So, going down ballot, though, your night just got worse and worse, man.
I mean, who really saw? I mean, we both were very clearly in agreement that Trump was going to win Indiana. I don't think anybody saw him winning it by 19 points.
I said 9 to 12. I think that's where most people
I had it like
had
8 to 10, and
in the same ballpark. And I said, based on that, Holcomb squeaks out a win. McCormick maybe squeaks out a win. Todd Young, I was confident in from the word go. And man, 20 points for Trump.
Yeah.
Evan Bayh gets beat by 10 and change. Eric Holcomb by 7.
Yeah.
7.
It was the Trump train.
And then Jennifer McCormick was the highest vote getter, got more votes than Eric Holcomb did. I mean, it's just crazy.
It was
just
insane.
nuts. It was an electric night in Indianapolis. I'll just say that. Having been up there, man.
It was a rough night.
My question to you is this. I mean, where do you guys go? We've talked about the death of the Republican Party for the last...
Oh, I never called it the death.
No, you did. Not you and I. Just national pundits have said the Republican Party is dead. I mean, we just happen to have the majority of the House. We have the majority of the Senate. Until Antonin Scalia died, we had the majority of the court. You know, the only level of government we weren't running was the White House. And yet we were the dying party. And now here we are. And essentially Republicans run everything now. Where, both at the state level and the national level, where do you guys go? Retreads do not work. Retreads don't work. Where's your bench? Help me out here.
Yeah, retreads can work. I think, Dan Coates proved that, but...
Yeah, but that one off. I mean, you guys have been doing it by the gallon.
I don't know about that, but I mean, moving forward, we're going to be electing a new chair. There's already some people that have thrown their names in the hat. Keith Ellison from Minnesota, who I have some apprehensions about. I'm concerned that, it's going to seem like we're doing what the Republicans did with Michael Steele when Barack Obama got elected president of, oh, hey, there's an African-American president. Let's put an African-American as the head of the RNC. So it seems like we're, more accepting. And then that's my concern with having Keith Ellison, who is a Muslim, as the DNC chair, is going to be more of a knee-jerk reaction to Donald Trump rather than putting the right person in there. Well,
in fairness, though, Keith Ellison has long been a very polarizing figure.
Yes.
And when you have a Republican president-elect, I guess. I can't call him the nominee anymore.
Oh my gosh, we're calling him that.
I know, you have to. It might make some sense to be the counterfoil. Now, in fairness, to this point, the president-elect has acted very presidential to this point. Now, granted, they took his phone away from him, which I think we talked about a little bit.
And then I think he got it back.
He got it back, but even then, he hasn't gone off the crazy train yet as president-elect. I'm not saying that won't happen, but here's hoping that it doesn't. Maybe that is kind of a decent counterpoint to an outlandish president. You play the foil.
I don't know. I'm more of a, I know Martin O'Malley's talked about possibly running for DNC chair. I'm certainly a fan of him. I think that he's a much more center-left choice, and I think especially if you're going to have such a far-right polarizing person, somebody has to tend to the middle.
While I agree with you, and I think that the Republican Party would be wise to do that, apparently I was proved wrong.
Right.
But then again, Donald Trump's not a real conservative either, but that's a totally other argument. Maybe he is, a middle-of-the-road Republican just with the lambast and all this other stuff. I guess we'll find out. But I don't know that sells anymore. I think if we proved anything, the louder the wings get, the more it sells. I don't know that Martin O'Malley got 12 votes for president this year, like in all the primaries, including his family. He got 12 votes. So I don't really know where he gets, sort of the base excited in the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton didn't get the base excited in the Democratic Party, really.
No,
all things considered, she was the ultimate established candidate in a vastly change election, which is weird because I don't think any of us saw that coming. I mean, obviously change elections are always kind of the end of one era. You're sort of looking for a different direction, possibly after 2 terms. But this was a slam dunk for Hillary. I don't know. I don't
know if it was more of a change election. I think it was more of an outsider election. I think that's a better way to start. I think that's why Donald Trump was able to do what he did, because they were looking for an outsider, and when you've got an outsider versus someone who's been doing this for 30 years, that's a pretty clear distinction.
You couldn't have said it better.
So
I'm going to hat tip Matt Neville for the first time on this podcast. We're 5 episodes in. Matt Neville, high five. Well done. Where do you want to go? Yeah, I'm going to let you drive this train. Do we need to have a Dr. Phil therapy session right now? What do we need?
You need to wake up. I know we had some notes together of kind of things we wanted to talk about.
I've got it pulled up here.
So we feel organized here.
The questions that kind of have come in that we've talked about. Obviously, biggest surprises of election night. I think the margins, both in Indiana and obviously a Trump administration win.
Absolutely.
How did Trump win? I think we've covered that already a little bit. Here's an interesting question. Do we need the Electoral College?
I've never been a big fan of the Electoral College. I mean, I get why it has existed, and I get why some people still like it. I'm still a big fan of, one vote should be equal to everywhere else. I mean, if you look at the value and the weight of some votes in places, in California, there's one electoral vote for every 750,000 people. In Alaska, it's one for every 250,000 people. I mean, there's this weight of vote of how much it matters and how much weight it's going to bring to the election, and I'm certainly not just saying this because Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. No. I mean, but if you look at it, this is the second time in my very short lifetime that we are going to have a president who was not the popular vote winner.
Right. I happen to believe in the Electoral College. We do not have a direct democracy. We never have. That's a fallacy that has been skipped by civics teachers for the last 10 years.
We are a republic, and we always have been.
Yes, and quite frankly, there is something to be said for every state outside of Texas, California, New York, Florida, and Ohio. Because quite frankly, if you go to a one-person, one-vote rule, 5 states decide the election, period.
But isn't that roughly what we have now? Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Virginia. Those are the constant 5 purple states that everyone focuses on. Everyone puts the money in TV commercials. So either way, you're going to have some set states that are going to decide it, because even if you have a direct democracy, I don't think that a Republican nominee is going to spend that much time in California, and a Democratic nominee is not going to spend that much time in Idaho.
Really? Does anybody spend time in Idaho? I had a college professor once tell me that it was a fictitious state, that they literally just created it to...
it's actually part of Montana.
Well, they had to have a place for the potatoes to go, I guess. So that was why they created it.
I think they named it that because they wanted the Idaho potato rhyme for the commercials. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, the Electoral College, I don't know. I get why the founders did it, because it was part of this just grand compromise, along with other bad things.
And quite frankly, though, I mean, at the end of the day, you do have direct representation in the House and the Senate. I mean, your vote goes to one person. Whoever gets the most votes wins.
Luckily, now we do. We didn't at the start, but
well, in the Senate, it was state legislatures, but even then. So I mean, it has been changed. I don't get the sense that it's going to, but it's one of those long-standing debates we've had for a very long time. I don't know that we have a good answer for it. I know Democrats now loathe it, and the Republicans are okay with it. Kind of like this conversation.
And we keep seeing this movement on social media, which I've tried to take like a break from since Tuesday, just to gather some sanity and to lick my own wounds. You see these people that are trying to say that the electors of the Electoral College should change their vote and vote for Hillary Clinton, and that's not the way to do it.
No,
I mean,
I agree.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they ran playing the same rules.
Right.
Everyone knew this is how the election was going to be done. Yep. As much as it pains me to say, Donald Trump won. It's time to move on.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad to hear you say that. We do have one of the most unique systems of government in the world, and the peaceful transfer of power is literally something that the rest of the world cherishes, or wishes they had, actually. We should cherish it more than we do. And I guess we don't have to worry about the validity of the election results this time.
Did you watch Hillary's concession speech?
I did.
I thought it was very good. It was, it's exactly what it needed to be. It was.
I think
it was very heartfelt.
After a very ugly slog of a campaign, I thought both candidates handled the fallout extremely well. I thought Donald Trump hit every note he needed to at 1 a.m. in the morning. I thought Hillary did a fantastic job of noting her disappointment, noting that it was time to give Donald Trump a chance to lead the country and to keep fighting for the principles that she was fighting for, which is exactly what you want to hear.
Exactly.
And why I in no way think that the Democratic Party is actually dead. You did have 52 million people support her. How many ever was? 56 million?
Something like that.
Vote for a Democrat for president. So this is going to be, we're going to be talking about this for the next 20 years. In the next 5 election cycles, we'll keep arguing about the merits of the popular vote versus the Electoral College and all this stuff. But
and again, we've had another election where Democratic congressional candidates got more votes than the Republican congressional candidates as a whole nationwide, and we still don't control the House. Gerrymandering is a problem.
I
know you're with me on that.
I have been on record for a very long time saying that we need to do something about the gerrymandering situation.
It's sad how often that happens, but
well, and it would be sad if it were just one party doing it, but both parties have done it for. I mean, the Democrats owned the House of Representatives for 40 years. So let's not. Both sides are guilty of it.
Absolutely.
This is why we need to take it out of the politicians' hands and into nonpartisan committees to do it. But
that's one thing that I think that
good luck with that.
President Obama wants to focus on once he's unfortunately out of the Oval Office, and we will miss him greatly.
Some of us will miss him greatly.
But I think one thing we can agree on is we will all miss Joe Biden.
Oh, absolutely. If you haven't seen the BuzzFeed conversation meme that they have going today, you should check it out.
We will all miss Joe Biden.
Hysterical.
Greatly.
We will. I really gonna let you continue this kind of flow of the conversation here. You're the one with the salty demeanor, and I don't want to tick you off. So, okay. Hillary and the DNC got what they deserved for plotting against Bernie and tilting the nomination in her favor. Agree or disagree?
I'm pretty sure you know what my answer is going to be on that, but
I want to hear your answer. It's not whether I know; it's whether our listeners know.
That's true. I mean, first off, the premise of the question seems to be that the DNC were they favorable to Hillary? Absolutely. Was it rigged or was it decided in any manner to give it to her? And was Bernie Sanders screwed out of the nomination? Absolutely not.
I agree completely. She got more votes than he did.
3.5 million more votes, I think it was. I mean,
and the Democrats do have what are they called? Superdelegates, which
even if the superdelegate system did not exist, would Hillary Clinton still win?
Yeah. So I agree.
And I think there's this idea that Bernie Sanders would have won if running against Donald Trump, which is a premise that I absolutely have no belief in. And there's these electoral maps going around showing that Bernie Sanders would have won Pennsylvania, would have won Ohio, would have won North Carolina.
He might have knocked off one of those. Yeah. I still can't figure out how Pennsylvania went red. I still can't.
I mean, it's how James Carville used to describe it. It's Pennsylvania to the east, Pittsburgh to the west, and Alabama in the middle. I mean, that's how James Carville since '92 has been describing Pennsylvania. I mean, looking at the electoral map, I think the only state that Bernie Sanders could have won that Hillary lost was Ohio, just because you've got so many big cities with big colleges. You would have gotten a lot of the youth vote in there, but I think that for every one young person vote that Bernie Sanders could have brought, he would have lost 2 50-plus voters who were either scared of the word socialism, or especially in some states like Florida, where there's a largely older population, there's a large amount that aren't going to like the fact that he's Jewish.
Wow, you're going there.
I'm
not touching that one.
I'm not defending it.
But
much like that, there were plenty of people that weren't going to vote for Barack Obama because he was African American, or vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. You don't have to touch that one, but
I'm going to let that. That's going to be the hanging chad of this podcast. Wow,
that's the reality of some people.
Whoa.
And I think that the idea that Bernie Sanders could have gotten over 270, I think, is just absolutely ridiculous. Especially with the fact that this was a outsider election, and when you've been in an elected Congress since 1990, you're not going to be an outsider
for whatever reason. Because I guess no one had heard of him. Since 1990, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I don't know that he was seen as an outsider because he wasn't embraced by the Democrat establishment. That narrative I couldn't understand, because you're right. He's been an elected official his entire life.
Yeah.
I was mayor of
Burlington,
Vermont, before he went to Congress. He spent 20 years in the House and moved to the Senate. But he wasn't ever a part of the establishment. And I think that was enough of an outsider move that I think that would have changed the dynamic of the election, certainly. But I still don't think.
And Trump would have still been able to use the same argument that he used against Hillary in the third debate that you and I talked about, that you've been in this for so long and you haven't changed anything. What's going to make you do it now?
And Hillary Clinton's record is much more established in terms of
of things
pedigree and of things getting done than Bernie Sanders has. What do you think the role of Bernie Sanders in the party is going forward?
I mean, I know Bernie Sanders has endorsed Keith Ellison for DNC chair. I think he's going to be playing a very powerful role. He's going to be somebody that has a lot of clout, that has a lot of ability to sway his former supporters. And it's going to be interesting to see how the DNC kind of embraces him and brings him into the fold. I mean, I think he's still going to be the ranking member on the Senate Banking Committee. He's still going to be an influential senator, and it's curious to see whether or not they're going to fully embrace him or if they're going to kind of take it step by step.
Okay. Very interesting.
But I mean, he's obviously going to be one of the 2 or 3 biggest names and biggest people in the party.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Elizabeth Warren, is she the new standard bearer?
I think she's the new standard bearer for the Bernie Sanders people.
Okay.
I mean, I think that when and if she runs, and I'm assuming at some point she's probably going to run for president, whether it's 2020 or 2024. I think that some of the Bernie people will come to her. It was disappointing to see how many of the Bernie Sanders supporters started attacking her once she endorsed Hillary Clinton. But I think a lot of those are going to come back to her when she runs, and I think some of the Hillary people will back her as well. I think she's, a preeminent front runner in 2020, along with people like, Cory Booker. I think is someone that would be able to position himself for a run. I think you're going to see a couple of younger figures, much more in the vein of Barack Obama, come and run rather than somebody more that's steeped in 30 years of political clout and political doing like Hillary Clinton.
Moving to the state level, the state Democratic Party is in trouble. They picked up 1 seat out of the supermajority in the House. They picked up a seat that they shouldn't have lost 2 years ago. Bill Fine shocked the world, really. So it was a seat, sort of a natural return to, the status quo. And they lost a seat in the Senate. They have 9 members of the state Senate. They can't play a full pickup game of basketball anymore.
They could still get a automatic 15% gratuity at O'Charlie's, though, when they go. So, I mean, we've got that going for us.
Eric Holcomb, obviously, is the next governor of the state of Indiana. Evansville's Suzanne Crouch will be the lieutenant governor. Curtis Hill was the all-time most vote getter.
All time?
All time.
I knew he was.
Has gotten more votes than any man in the history of the state of Indiana. He had roughly 1.6 million votes on election night. Jennifer McCormick takes over for Glenda Ritz. What is next at the state party? I'm at a loss. I mean, I think Christina Hale is the future of your party. I think she is a dynamic individual. I think she has a bright future should she decide to get back into the arena. What's your take on this, man?
I mean, statewide's always been difficult especially for, positions like Attorney General and Superintendent of Public Instruction, even, Secretary of State and Auditor and Treasurer when those are up in the midterms. I mean, we are a Republican state. We are a center-right Republican state. And it's always going to be difficult to get Democrats elected statewide, especially in the non-sexy races that don't get all of the media attention and get all the money for the TV commercials. I think it's always been a difficult hill to climb, much like Republicans in California have a difficult hill to climb.
Sure.
But, where we go from here, I think Christina Hale is obviously going to be the future of the party. I think that we've got to continue to build a bench of people that can start to take on some of these other positions as well. And I mean, there's only so much you can really do in a largely Republican state.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So locally, kind of a mixed bag. Good night, bad night for the Democrats. Ben Shoulders picks up the first district commission seat over Sean Selby. Cheryl Musgrave knocks off Stephen Melcher in what was probably the race I think we all kind of thought would be sort of the race.
Yeah.
Ed Bassmeyer loses one of the seats on the county council.
That was very close as well.
It was. And quite frankly, having Joe Kiefer sort of moved down back into the council race, I think sort of threw that into chaos.
You knew one of the incumbents was going to end up getting that unfortunate first spot.
But congratulations to Mike Gable, Angela Kaler-Lindsay. Congratulations to Joe. So not as rough a night there anyway. You had a couple bright spots.
We had a couple of good races that we were clerk race with Zach Hieronymus, recorder's race with Shannon Edwards that we were very hopeful in getting, and I think part of it was the Trump train of Trump winning by 19 statewide, extrapolated down to Vandenberg County, and I think you had a lot of straight ticket Republican voters that we weren't necessarily thinking were going to do straight ticket, and it's just kind of how elections go, unfortunately.
Right. So what's next, man? I think we all watch sort of the transition unfold.
Mike Pence in charge of Trump transition now.
I think that is a very smart move by the Trump administration.
Absolutely.
I think the more you can separate yourself from Chris Christie at this point, the better.
Do you mean to tell me that Chris Christie will not be the Secretary of Transportation? Is that what you're telling me?
I think Chris Christie was going for a G, and I don't think
I think his expertise in bridges would make him a very good Secretary of Transportation, but maybe
he may be sad, but he's still got jokes. Everybody, he may be sad.
My snarkiness is very high this week.
It is, and that's why I'm kind of taking a slightly cautious position here today. It's going to be interesting to watch. I do think from Indiana's perspective, we have now elected our 6th vice president of the United States from this great state. I think Governor Pence from the get-go has been the steadying factor of the Trump campaign. I think he is well suited for Washington, probably more so than Indianapolis. And I think he will do I think he'll do a great job as vice president of the United States. I think he's going to have a role similar to Joe Biden's. He's going to be in the room more than most. I think sort of Dick Cheney sort of broke the mold on what a vice president should look like, and I think that Barack Obama continued that in picking Joe Biden. I think Donald Trump did the same with picking Mike Pence with his experience on Capitol Hill and running a state. And I think at the end of the day, it's good for the state of Indiana. Whether you like him or not, having the second most powerful man in the federal government be from your home state is a pretty big deal. So
I'm just curious to see, when Trump was picking his vice president, we heard the rumors from John Kasich's people that essentially the offer that was made to Kasich was that the vice president was going to be essentially running the show, and the president was going to be kind of, as they put it, the president was in charge of making America great again. And I'm curious to see whether or not that holds up, because eventually things like the TikTok of the president is going to come out, and you're going to see who's actually going down to the Situation Room at 2 a.m. when there's issues. And
look, I don't get the sense that Donald Trump, now that he is, again, everyone that has met Donald Trump and knows Donald Trump will say that there is two Donald Trumps. There's the guy in the room that nobody else sees, that is very measured, very well thought, very well articulate. And then there's the guy on Twitter, and there's the guy in campaign rallies trying to get people riled up.
Can you imagine what would have happened if the first Donald Trump had run for president?
Right. Well, I think, yeah. Well, I'm hoping that Donald Trump is the president and not, the circus act.
There's been a lot of people that have said that, have known him for years that have kind of said things like that. And the kind of the gist of what they say is that no one really knows what Donald Trump's going to do because Donald Trump doesn't know what Donald Trump's going to do.
Yeah.
And to me, that's slightly terrifying. I mean, we really have no idea what to expect from him. I mean, John McCain, we knew what we were going to be getting with him. Mitt Romney, we knew what we were going to get with him. Right. And either one of those people, if they had won over Barack Obama, I would have said, okay, we'll be fine.
Right.
Not who I wanted, not my first choice, but
I'm going to just say that I have hope that they're not going to he's not going to destroy the country. We're going to be back at this in 4 years. The world is not coming to an end.
Well, I'm not saying that either.
Well, there's
your
reprieve from Facebook needs to end to see this stuff. The sky is falling for half of America right now in ways that are just preposterous. But they did the same thing with Obama too.
I get it.
And
they did the same thing with
George W. Bush. I mean, it happens on both sides. I get it.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, though, McConnell keeps a 52-seat majority in the Senate, most likely. Louisiana's still out, but that should go red.
Especially if they end up with the runoff.
Well, they are.
Oh, they're at the
they
runoff
are
now?
at the
Okay.
runoff.
But yeah, that should be red then.
So he'll have a 52-seat majority. Paul Ryan and the Republicans, I think, will keep anything too crazy from going off the rails with President Trump. I guess we got to get used to saying that now, don't we? Was it just me, or was it weird watching him sitting in the Oval with Barack Obama?
That was awkward. Like, I'm really hopeful that, because there's this. You're a history nerd like me, so
absolutely.
you know that there's this customary thing of the outgoing president leaves a letter on the Resolute desk for the new president. I'm really hopeful that he leaves him a framed copy of his birth certificate. That's all that I want him to do. No letter, nothing, just a framed copy of the birth certificate just sitting there in a frame next to the pictures of Melania.
I'm going to hope that Barack Obama is a classier guy than that. Now,
I'm salty this week.
I wouldn't rule out putting it in with the letter. I would not fault him for that.
P.S. Here's your own personal copy.
Yeah, here you go. In fact, this one's notarized, so you're good. It's official. Wow, Matt, what else you got? I'm kind of done, man.
This week is just. I'm still tired. I'm still exhausted.
America is tired, but hey, my Cubbies won the World Series. And America needed that.
The Braves have signed R.A. Dickey and Bartolo Colon, so we got that going for us.
Hey.
Bartolo Colon is older than our last two stadiums, so. Fun fact for the kids at home.
Not only is Matt Neville salty, he is on fire. He's got jokes today. He's got wit and wisdom. Matt Neville.
I don't know about wisdom, but I've got wit and I've got salt.
You just dropped Bartolo Colon on us today. Everybody.
I got two questions if you'd like.
Oh,
we got questions.
Okay,
Here we go.
Questions.
Question one is a lot of people have been activated by this election.
Yes.
We'll call it that.
Yeah.
How's the best way to get involved with the party of choice?
I think at the local level to start with. I think find an issue, find a campaign, find something that you're passionate about, and just start getting involved. I mean, just look. Showing up is half the battle. Showing up is 9/10 of the battle, quite frankly, when it comes to getting involved in politics. And I do think there's a very valid point here, and I think it's something that if the Democrats are smart at the executive level of their party, they recognize that there is an army of people that voted for Hillary Clinton. There's an army of people that voted for Bernie Sanders. There is an army of people out there that are really not happy right now that Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. And there is an opportunity to start capitalizing on that. Now, I don't think protesting, winning or losing an election fair and square is the best way to do it.
Right.
Especially when the Democratic Party spent the last 3 weeks screaming about how unfair Donald Trump may take a loss. It seems a little hypocritical at this point. But that said, there is something out there that the Democrats can capitalize on, I think, if they're smart, and get those people involved. It's as simple as talking to your neighbors. It's as simple as paying attention, going to a city council meeting. Just get off the couch and do something. Quite frankly,
and that's been one good thing that's actually kind of, and I can't believe I'm actually going to utter this sentence, but actually one good thing that's come from a Donald Trump win is that I've got, since election day, I've gotten 7 or 8 emails from people that have said, how do I get more involved in the local party?
Right.
And that's the best way of getting involved is
Right.
get involved at the local level. That's where you have the most influence, where you can do the most good and go from there.
all politics is local.
Absolutely.
Tip O'Neill was completely right about that. And I think to that end, I think it helps both parties. I think there is a whole bunch of never Trumpers that are still out there that want to be engaged in the future of the Republican Party. I think at the same time, anytime you can engage young people, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what your ideology is. We're the ones that are going to have to fix this mess at the end of the day. You know, Donald Trump's 71 years old or whatever. He's going to be a one-term president more likely than not, just based on age and attrition. We have an opportunity to really start taking the reins. And I think you've seen it locally lately.
Absolutely.
Ben Shoulders, Anna Hargis, Justin Elpers, guys like Zach Hieronymus.
Ryan Hatfield.
Ryan Hatfield. You're seeing a younger generation start to take the reins of our community. And I think that's really exciting. regardless of political affiliation.
And it fosters good debate, and debate and discussion is good for both sides. Good,
Absolutely.
And it's good for everyone.
When we're not using potty mouth language and name calling like Little Neville.
Crooked Justin.
Yeah. See, when we do that, that's when it goes off the rails. I do think we need to have a discussion on civility, though. We have to get back.
Yeah.
Compromise cannot be a bad word anymore. We have to figure out how we handle political debate in this country. Social media is the worst thing ever. Because half the fights that I see on Facebook are from websites like uberliberal.com or
Thank you for plugging my website.
Trump
by the
is
way.
I can't even make one up. They're so ridiculous and none of it's faced
Trump
in
is
fact.
trumpistheworst.org.
Yeah, well that's your website. But seriously, like we're using Facebook as a news feed from websites that are just blatantly making stuff up.
And half of it's just clickbait in the headlines. It's just trying to get you to click. And because, I'm stupid, so sometimes I click it because I'm curious to see why are liberals so upset about this? And then I find out that it's nothing.
Right. And most of the time they just pick the one crazy headline and nobody reads it, but they share it and then they feign outrage about it.
Yeah.
Like we have to be smarter than this, people. We are not this dumb. Like we're all fairly intelligent people. Like, can we take a second and read a newspaper once in a while? Please, please, I'm begging you, America. Let's do something about our political discourse and our political knowledge, please. You got another question?
Yes. Next president will be Michelle Obama or Kanye West.
Ooh. Well, based on that retread thing, I hope it's not Michelle Obama. I hope you guys learned your lesson that Clinton, Obama, Clinton, well, actually, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Clinton, well, Trump, Obama, I guess now. See, you got me still saying Clinton, man. Yeah. I think Michelle Obama has whatever future she wants in the Republican or Democratic Party. See, now you got me all flustered. Man. I'm struggling.
I think her future in the Republican Party is very bleak.
I don't know. She was pretty popular.
much like Kanye West. But.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. When Reince Priebus is saying nobody lays a hand on Michelle, don't say a word about her because we can't mess up with that. I'm not saying she doesn't have a future in the Republican Party. We'd welcome her in with open arms. But
you can't have her. She's ours.
No, I do think though she has a future if she wants it. I think her 8-year tenure as first lady was pretty remarkable. She tackled some really big causes, childhood obesity, that sort of stuff.
Those speeches she was giving at the very end,
I know,
hella good.
I know they were. It made you stop and think, didn't it?
For someone who 8 years ago hated giving speeches and didn't want to go out to the DNC at the convention and give a speech and all of that, she's come a miraculously long way.
I don't know that she'll be president necessarily, but I do think. I mean, I've heard rumblings that there's a Senate seat
in Illinois
out there. I was hearing, even California, or doing the Hillary thing and just planting somewhere. And it seems like in the next 2 years anyway, she's going to be in D.C., so it won't matter as the youngest daughter gets through high school. But and that's an interesting twist too. A former president sticking it out in D.C. for a couple of years. How's that going to go? That just fascinates me.
Where's he going to live?
He's got a house out in the suburbs of D.C. Yeah, it's like
It's going to be the safest neighborhood in the nation. Man, the former president living there.
Right, exactly. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, they I can't tell you the neighborhood, but it's
we'll put the official address on the Facebook page. If you want to go visit.
I'm pretty sure that was Matt Neville. So when the Secret Service hears this, I had nothing to do with that. Please do not come knock on my door.
To be fair, his current address is listed on the many websites.
Yeah. There you go.
That's true.
Well, yeah, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But that's Donald Trump's new address. No, my question to you is this. Does Donald Trump move into the White House or does he stay at that swanky hotel 3 blocks away?
And how long does it take for a giant gold-plated Trump sign to be on top of the White House?
Fortunately enough, there are rules against that. The White House Historical Society handles all of those issues, so there will not be an additional floor or pillars or gold plating put on the White House. You're safe. In fact, they can't make wholesale changes actually to the main part of the house anyway. Only the family quarters do they get a say in what's what.
Nerd alert.
Oh, definitely nerd alert. You got any other questions over there, Jason? We're good. All right. Well, again,
this is This is happening. This is real life. This is.
It is. It is.
I'm curious to see how the cabinet's going to shake out.
I will say this. I have read a lot about this, and so far, from a non-Trump supporting Republican, I can breathe a little easier seeing the list of folks he's talking about. This is not going to be a circus freak.
Have we seen the same lists?
Well, it depends on what your news source is. I can show you lists that have Sarah Palin as Interior Secretary and Newt Gingrich as Secretary of State. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's the list I've seen, and that's why I was looking at you very strangely.
Right, because that's not the list I'm seeing.
I've seen Forrest Lucas for Interior. And
Bob Corker, Senator from Tennessee, Secretary of State. No, Secretary of State. That would be great. Foreign relations, dude's awesome. I would wholeheartedly sign off on that. Other than that,
he has to have a token Democrat on there. I'm curious to see who it's going to be because every president has a token of the other party that's there. Just to,
right.
I'm curious, for Democrats, it's usually someone in like defense. Like we had Robert Gates or Chuck Hagel.
Yeah, but I think Gates was a little unique because of you're picking up a wartime presidency and cohesion there is unique. I thought Hagel was an interesting move. I thought that was the one that was just didn't make any sense.
That I think was more of they had a relationship from the Senate. I think it was
that
partially what it was,
but that just didn't work. And they figured it out pretty quickly, and he moved to Ash Carter, who I think is doing a decent job as the Secretary of Defense. What do you think the Obama prank will be as the staff leaves the White House? We all remember the infamous Clinton administration taking the W's off of keyboards on all of the computers. What's it going to be? What do you think?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, you could just see posters of Melania posted everywhere. I mean, you could always a good option.
He's feisty today. Wow. Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. I'm done talking about the election of 2016. If you are,
I'm ready to move on to what's probably going to be a lot better 2018 for my party than what 2016 will be.
Are you looking at the same maps I am? By the way,
we're not taking back the Senate, but we're going to pick up some stuff.
All right.
Yeah, the Senate map is going to be rough.
I was going to say you're going to have. We may hit 60. Now that we're at 52, we could. Theoretically, we could. Off-year elections are always good for Republicans.
Not always. Look at
2006. 2006 was the last off-year. We dominated in 10 and 14.
The first midterm after a president takes over is always bad. Look at 94. Look at 2002. It's just how
2002 was good for President Bush. He was the first president to pick up seats.
You sure?
Yes. He picked up seats. In fact, George W. Bush didn't lose seats in any election until 2006. It's a fact, man.
I'm gonna have to Google that.
Karl Rove, man, all Karl Rove. They picked up seats in 2002. It was the only
Karl Rove for chief of staff.
No, Carl's making too much money and doing his own thing.
I've seen Reince Priebus as chief of staff or Steve Bannon, and either one of those is a good choice at all.
Steve Bannon is the White House chief of staff. I'm gonna jump out a window.
I just enjoyed that what I saw, which on uberliberal.org is never the best news source in the world. I just made that up. But that if Reince Priebus was chief of staff, that Corey Lewandowski was going to take over the RNC, which for your sake, I hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hope Corey Lewandowski's not allowed anywhere near 1600. I'll just say that right now. But I do say this in all sincerity. The world's not going to come to an end.
No, we will survive as a republic.
We will survive as a republic. The two-party system will prevail yet again, as it always does. And I want to say thank you to everybody that put their neck out there, got in the arena. If you ran in a primary, if you ran in a general, thank you, because it's a huge sacrifice to put your neck out there, to fight for what you believe in, to put your family through it, to put your friends through it. It's a lot. And I hope that out of this, more people decide to take the plunge, because elections do have consequences. And a hat tip to everybody that ran in 2016. And next year is a complete non-election year. Whew. There are nobody on a ballot in 2017. So
here's a fun thought exercise for you that I forgot that someone mentioned to me today. Imagine if Gary Johnson had been in the debates. Fun thought exercise. I don't know what that would have done. I don't know if that would have changed.
I don't think it would have changed much. I think after his several meltdown miscues on stuff that the mainstream media was not going to let him get away with, I think he was right where he was going to be, the roughly 4% he got.
I think he would have gotten a little bit more. There's always this discussion of who libertarians pull from more, Democrats or Republicans. And, I think it's probably closer to 60-40 taking more from Republicans.
Yeah,
it's still taking a hefty amount from Democrats.
Right.
I mean, at some point you extrapolate that out. If he has good debates, he gets to 9-10%.
Well,
that's
first Hillary Clinton's president.
Exactly.
I mean, all these races in the blue and red states, they were none of them were blowouts.
No.
I mean, it was a tight election cycle all around. Just Donald Trump was able to put a map together that got him past 270. But anyway, Matt, I think we'll start to shift gears a little bit with the next run of podcasts. We'll start bringing some guests on, talking a little bit more about what's going on in terms of policy and at the state, local, and federal levels. I guess I'll probably have to be on the hook to get most of our guests since there aren't many Democrats to pull from. But I'm just kidding.
Wow,
just kidding.
I thought you were going to be I thought you were going to be nice to me.
Hey, you've been salty all day, and I've
justifiably so.
Justifiably, absolutely. No, we're going to bring some folks on. We'll try to get some guests. We'll give you a heads up on who we bring on so we can get some questions from our faithful.
If you got guest ideas, please let us know. Anybody you want to hear that we can legitimately get. If you ask us to get Michelle Obama, I will do my best, but I make no guarantees. But
that's going to be tough. But we've got some poll with some Indiana statewide figures. We've got some poll with some federal guys too. Sure. And as they come to town, we'll see if they can't peel off a half an hour or so of their time.
Stop by and hang out.
Absolutely. So. Thank God 2016 is over.
We made it, and we can actually start talking about issues and things like that.
Exactly right.
That's what I legitimately enjoy about politics.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to continuing this ride on the Politics Aside podcast. Thank you for putting up with us through the 2016 election. We hope we left a little sanity out there for folks when they were done listening. And Matt, better days ahead, man.
We'll get there.
Better days ahead. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you next time. Justin Groenert.
Matthew Neville. Thanks, everybody.